What if the very medical tests you trusted could secretly do more harm than good? Picture the scene: a cold, fluorescent-lit hospital corridor. The hum of machines fills the silence as an elderly man, dignified yet weary, sits waiting for yet another routine check. His name is called, and without hesitation, he rises. He has done this before. He believes he is doing what's best. But behind the polished smiles and the endless forms lies a truth rarely spoken aloud. For decades, seniors have been told that more tests equal more protection, that every scan, every scope, every needle is a shield against danger. Yet what if some of these so-called shields are double-edged swords, bringing anxiety, false alarms, even real physical harm? What if the ritual of routine checkups, repeated year after 70, isn't safeguarding life, but quietly stealing peace, money, and dignity? Most people over 70 are still being told they must get these checkups. But what the doctors don't tell you could change everything. Because once you uncover the truth, you may never sit in that waiting room the same way again. Stay with me, because in just a moment, you'll see the 5 tests you should think twice about before saying yes. Every year, millions of seniors walk into clinics and hospitals with the same quiet hope that these checkups, these tests, these appointments will keep them safe. They wait patiently in lobbies lined with glossy posters urging early detection and preventive care, convinced that more testing means longer life. It sounds comforting, even noble. But beneath the surface lies a reality far more complicated and far less kind. For seniors past 70, many of these routine tests are no longer about health at all. They are about numbers, charts, billing codes, a system that thrives on volume, not wisdom. The patient is no longer seen as a whole human being with history, dignity, and choices, but as a file, a data point, a potential profit. Think about it. What's the cost of an unnecessary test? It's not just the bill in the mail. It's the anxiety from false positives. It's the cascade of treatments that follow a shadow on a scan that might never have harmed you. It's the sleepless nights wondering if you are sick when in fact, you may be perfectly fine. And for many, the cruelest cost is independence. Too many elders find themselves tangled in medical appointments, tests, follow-ups, and prescriptions that strip them of time, energy, and joy. Time they could have spent with grandchildren, traveling, or simply enjoying a quiet morning. Instead, they are trapped in a cycle of medicalization, told that every new ache demands another scan, another scope, another invasive procedure. This is where the real conflict begins. On one side stands the senior, the hero of our story, armed with wisdom, resilience, and a desire to live with dignity. On the other side looms a powerful system that preys on fear, whispering the same refrain: if you don't test, you're not safe. A system that has forgotten the difference between healing and harvesting. And yet, deep down, many seniors already sense the truth. They feel the unease when they're pushed into another exam that doesn't quite make sense. They hear the quiet doubt in their own voices when they ask, "Do I really need this?" Because not all routine checkups are routine at all. Some are designed less to protect your health and more to keep the machinery of medicine running. And as you'll soon discover, a handful of these tests may do more than waste your time. They may rob you of peace, money, and even health itself. The first of these is perhaps the most surprising of all. The story of overtesting begins long before a senior ever sits in a waiting room. It begins with an industry that has perfected the art of turning fear into profit. In glossy ads, in hushed conversations between doctor and patient, in the endless mailers urging, "Don't delay, schedule today," the same message is repeated until it becomes gospel. The more you test, the safer you'll be. But behind that polished promise lurks a villain, not in a single white coat, but in a system built to reward volume over value. Consider the economics. Every scan, every lab draw, every scope generates revenue. For hospitals, diagnostics are a goldmine. For private clinics, they're a steady stream of billable codes. For pharmaceutical companies, they open new markets for drugs that treat conditions often discovered only because of those very tests. This cycle feeds itself. Test, diagnose, prescribe, repeat. Meanwhile, the patient, often a senior simply seeking reassurance, becomes trapped in a conveyor belt of care. And arrogance plays its part. Too many doctors, trained in a culture that idolizes intervention, struggle to say the word no. To them, recommending fewer tests feels like neglect, even when evidence shows otherwise. The white coat becomes a cloak of authority, and dissent from the patient is brushed aside. Better safe than sorry, they say, masking a truth they rarely admit. Better safe for me than sorry for you. The marketing is just as insidious. Commercials targeted at older viewers lean on fear, shadows on x-rays, ominous music, bold warnings about cancers, hiding silently in your body. It is storytelling designed not to inform, but to terrify. Seniors, already vulnerable to the natural anxieties of aging, absorb these messages and walk into clinics primed to say yes to anything that promises protection. And the cost of these yeses? Devastating. Take the case of Margaret, a 74-year-old grandmother in Texas. After a routine chest scan picked up a suspicious spot, she was rushed through weeks of biopsies and follow-up tests. Each new result brought more uncertainty, more procedures, more bills. Only after months of fear and physical pain did the truth emerge. The suspicious growth was nothing more than scar tissue from a decades-old infection. Margaret was left not only shaken, but also saddled with medical debt. Or consider James, a retired teacher. Pressured into annual PSA tests for prostate cancer, he received an alarming false positive at age 72. The next 2 years of his life were consumed by treatments and side effects, treatments that studies now show were unnecessary for his age group. The test did not save him. It stole his confidence, his strength, and his peace. These are not isolated tragedies. They are the quiet casualties of an industry that has learned to keep seniors hooked on the promise of certainty, a promise it cannot keep. For the villain in this story is not just greed. It is the cold efficiency of a system that mistakes testing for caring and profit for healing. It is a machine that thrives on perpetual doubt, convincing seniors that they are ticking time bombs in need of constant surveillance. But what happens when the human spirit meets this machine of endless tests? That's when dignity fights back. Not every senior bows to the pressure of the system. Some, with years of experience etched into their faces and patience carved into their voices, have learned to pause, to question, and to choose differently. These are the quiet heroes, elders who decide that their final chapters will not be written by endless appointments, but by dignity, freedom, and peace. Take Rosa, a 78-year-old immigrant who raised 5 children while working 2 jobs. When her doctor urged yet another colonoscopy, she asked a simple question. Will this add to my years, or will it take away from the ones I still have left? The silence that followed told her everything. Rosa chose to spend her time in her garden, where the scent of fresh soil and blooming flowers became her medicine. She is thriving not because she said yes to more tests, but because she had the courage to say no. Or consider David, a former steelworker, who was prescribed a cocktail of pills after a borderline scan. Instead of resigning himself to the fog of side effects, he adjusted his diet, walked with his grandchildren every evening, and cut the unnecessary medications. His doctor was skeptical, but David's health improved, and so did his spirit. These seniors remind us of something society often forgets. Wisdom is not born from fear, but from experience. They know the difference between living longer on paper and living better in reality. They see through the glossy ads and the fear-laced conversations. They understand that sometimes the bravest act is not submitting to one more test, but claiming one's time, one's joy, and one's independence. And perhaps that is the true gift of age, the ability to separate what matters from what doesn't, to recognize when the noise of medicine drowns out the music of living. These elders are not reckless. They are not careless. They are simply wise enough to ask, is this test for me or for the system? And it's this wisdom that guides us into the 5 dangerous checkups you must question after 70. The waiting room feels endless. Chairs lined in sterile rows, a television droning health tips that no one listens to, the soft shuffle of feet as names are called one by one. For many seniors, this is the stage where the first routine test begins, the colonoscopy. For adults under 70, colonoscopies can indeed be life-saving, catching cancers early. But after 70, the equation changes. The risks of complications rise, perforated intestines, internal bleeding, reactions to anesthesia. The procedure that promises protection too often delivers pain, fear, or long recoveries that steal precious time. And for what? At this age, slow-growing cancers often won't impact lifespan, but the side effects of treatment might. Still, the pressure is heavy. Doctors repeat the mantra, it's just routine. Families, anxious and loving, insist, better safe than sorry. But behind those reassurances is an unspoken truth. Sometimes the risk outweighs the reward. Then there is the second culprit, the full-body scan. Marketed as the ultimate safeguard, It lures seniors with the promise of catching every hidden threat. The ads show smiling elders stepping confidently into MRI machines, as if certainty is just one image away. But what these commercials never reveal is the dark side: false alarms. A tiny shadow that means nothing can trigger a cascade of tests, biopsies, and treatments. Anxiety multiplies. Bills pile up. Seniors spiral into a medical maze for conditions that never would have harmed them. Picture this. A 72-year-old man receives a call after his preventive scan. The doctor's voice is flat, clinical. "We found something. It might be serious." In that instant, the man's world collapses. He spends weeks in a fog of dread, telling his family, preparing for the worst. And then, after countless follow-ups, the verdict arrives. The spot was harmless. He is relieved, yes, but also broken. Time lost. Peace shattered. Trust eroded. These tests, framed as shields, can become chains. They remind seniors not of strength, but of fragility. They replace dignity with dependence, courage with constant worry. And yet millions still go through it. Why? Because the system tells them they must. Because fear whispers louder than reason. Because hope, even false hope, is hard to resist. But the truth is different. Past 70, the question isn't always, how much longer can I live? But how well can I live the years I have? And no scan or scope can answer that. Because the next test, number 3, might be the most shocking of all. And then came the moment that left the medical establishment rattled. The curtain was pulled back on 3 more tests that had long been framed as mandatory, yet which often deliver more pain than peace. Test number 3, the PSA test for prostate cancer. For men past 70, the risks of this blood test outweigh the benefits. Elevated numbers can trigger panic, leading to biopsies, surgeries, and treatments that carry side effects far worse than the so-called disease: impotence, incontinence, years of diminished quality of life. Studies show many of these cancers grow so slowly they would never have caused harm. Yet the industry keeps pushing because each test fuels a chain of procedures. The villain here is fear, whispered into the ears of men who only wanted reassurance. The hero is the senior who calmly says, "I'll live my years on my terms, not the system's." Test number 4. Routine mammograms after 70. For decades, women were told this test was their armor, their lifeline. But after 70, false positives surge, leading to unnecessary surgeries, chemotherapy, and radiation. A shadow on a scan can destroy months of peace. And when elders begin to ask, why did no one tell us the risks? The silence from the system is deafening. Test number 5, repeated bone density scans. Framed as a tool to prevent fractures, they often result in seniors being prescribed powerful drugs with dangerous side effects: jaw decay, heart complications, and more. For many women, simple exercise, diet, and balance training do more than the pills ever could. Yet the machine of medicine keeps scanning, diagnosing, prescribing. Because every scan means another bill. Every prescription means another profit. This was the mic drop moment. Seniors began to see through the illusion. They realized that the true act of courage is not submission, but discernment. It is the quiet strength of choosing quality over quantity, dignity over fear. And when these truths began spreading, the reaction was electric. Social media lit up with seniors declaring, "Why weren't we told this sooner?" Hashtags trended. Families shared stories of loved ones who endured unnecessary suffering. Younger generations watched in awe as their elders, once treated as passive patients, became bold truth-tellers. It was more than a health revelation, it was a rebellion, a reclaiming of power, a refusal to be defined by profit-driven checklists. The hero stood taller, calmer, clearer, while the villain, the system that thrived on fear, was left scrambling. But the fallout didn't stop at the doctor's office. It rippled across families, communities, and even national conversations about aging. The revelation spread like wildfire. Families who had once carried the quiet dread of every test, every follow-up, every uncertain phone call, felt a wave of relief. Sons and daughters watched their parents finally step off the treadmill of endless medical appointments. And for the first time in years, dinner conversations were about life again. Memories, plans, laughter, not the next test or the next doctor's visit. Grandchildren saw their elders not as fragile patients, but as strong, wise anchors of the family. On social media, the debate ignited. Some called it a wake-up call, others a scandal long overdue. Threads buzzed with hashtags like "Shosh Dignity," over fear, and rethink routine, as seniors proudly shared their decisions to refuse another colonoscopy, another PSA test, another unnecessary mammogram. Stories poured in. I said no, and I got my peace back. I chose family dinners over hospital waiting rooms. It was validation, not just for individuals, but for an entire generation weary of being reduced to test results. Doctors, too, could not escape the storm. While some clung defensively to tradition, others began to admit what they had long known but rarely voiced: the medical system overtests. Journals published op-eds. Medical boards held heated meetings. For the first time in decades, the once unquestionable authority of routine screening faced genuine scrutiny. Imagined headlines captured the moment. Are seniors being overtested? New debate sparks over medical excess and elder dignity. When tests harm more than help. Television debates featured spirited exchanges. Some commentators painted seniors who refused tests as reckless, while others hailed them as pioneers of a new, braver way to age. Advocacy groups seized the moment, calling for new guidelines and for respect to be placed back into the center of elder care. The ripple effects reached far beyond hospitals. Communities began holding workshops on informed consent, families began questioning prescriptions, and seniors began speaking with a confidence that shook the very foundation of medical paternalism. The villain, the system of over-medicalization, was no longer untouchable. Its authority was cracked, its mask slipping, and yet, beyond the noise and controversy, one truth emerged loud and clear. In the end, the story was never just about tests. It was about something much greater: how we choose to live and how we choose to define aging. For too long, the system tried to teach seniors that their worth was measured in lab results and scan reports. But dignity tells a different story. Dignity whispers that life is not meant to be lived in waiting rooms, but in living rooms, surrounded by the people and moments that matter most. Aging with wisdom means refusing to be ruled by fear. It means knowing that uncertainty is a part of life, but fear does not have to be. It means saying yes to what nourishes the spirit and no to what steals peace. This is not neglect, it is courage. It is the calm bravery of a generation that has endured wars, migrations, struggles, and triumphs, and who now understand that true health is not the absence of risk, but the presence of meaning. You are not just patients. You are elders, mentors, and keepers of wisdom. Your stories, your resilience, your presence are gifts far greater than any test result could ever be. And when you choose quality of life over needless interventions, you send a message to the world that aging is not decline, but a stage of strength, clarity, and grace. So let the world measure health in charts and scans. You will measure it in laughter shared, traditions passed down, and mornings lived without fear. That is your victory. That is your legacy. And dignity, once chosen, is more powerful than any prescription. These 5 health checkups after 70 may not save you, but this knowledge just might. The truth is simple. Not every test guarantees safety, and not every procedure adds value. What does matter is the wisdom to question, to choose, and to live life on your own terms. Now is the time to take action, not by avoiding care entirely, but by reclaiming agency over your health. Talk to your doctors. Ask the hard questions. Discuss options with your family. Share this video, start conversations, and be part of a growing community that values senior wisdom over fear-based medicine. Every story shared, every choice made with clarity, strengthens the voices of elders everywhere. Remember, your best years aren't behind you. They're the years you live with clarity, freedom, and dignity. The years you spend on what truly matters: family, friends, laughter, and peace of mind. This is not just about medicine, it's about life. Subscribe to stay informed, share this message to empower others, and step confidently into the next chapter. Your choices, your voice, and your wisdom are more powerful than any test, any procedure, or any fear. Live boldly, live wisely, and let dignity lead the way.